Whether you're new to Splatoon or a returning player, if you're wanting to get serious about Splatoon 3, you've probably been trying to figure out some of the different ways that you can practice this game. So today I wanted to run you through a few different things that might be helpful, including the 4 different ranges we have in Splatoon 3, quick intro to Recon Mode, and then also some tips for how private battle might be able to help as well. So the first one, of course, is the lobby. The range here is pretty good. We do, of course, have our moving targets, including one up on the rail there, which is great. We have this little selection over here that we can practice various things with. This arrangement of blocks and ramps and things is great for learning, what angles you need to be able to hit something above you. You can try practicing some fall-off shots, seeing how that works. Also just trying to aim down, making sure you don't clip into any of the geometry, and various other things that can be quite helpful to practice before you actually get into a game. However, there are a few things with this lobby that may not make it the best place. One, there is music, and it is kind of loud. Some people might not have any problem with that, you might just beat the game, although there are a lot of audio cues in Splatoon that can be very helpful to be able to listen for, particularly if you're playing something like a heavy, or any of the other Splatlings, or any of the charges, which all have an audio cue when they're ready to fire. The other thing, of course, is hit markers and being able to listen to those, making sure you actually got the hit, learning the difference between a direct and just clipping an enemy. There is also this block, which has quickly been driving me slightly crazy, because I would really like to be able to practice my strafing with these particular targets. And it is kind of helpful because I am terrible at aiming when my back is to something and the camera goes into first person. However, I don't always want to be practicing my strafing with my camera going in and out of first person. So I went looking for other options. And the first one I found is the Shoal. The Shoal is intended to be used for local multiplayer. This is getting together with some friends at someone's house or at a LAN party or something, and then playing together with your switches sitting right next to each other. However, it also has its own practice room. I assume that you can use this between games, the same as the main lobby. However, as you can see, the arrangement here is slightly different. There's no block over on this side here. It's over there instead, and there's a target on top of it. We still have the 2 moving targets at the back there and the one up the top rail. But there's one in the middle here that's stationary. We've got the 2 big ones either side, and we have this extra rail around the sides here. So although it's very similar, there are still exercises you can do with this range that you wouldn't be able to do with the one in the lobby. This may be particularly helpful if you want to run any particular drills. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the big Splatoon streamers and YouTubers start posting some drill videos at some point for practicing various weapons. You can also just come up with your own drills. Generally, it's good to just play around, see what works, try a few things. If there's anything particular in matches that you're finding you struggle with, then you can try and figure out a drill for them in the practice range, and different practice range might work better for you. For example, with the charges here, you have plenty of room in the Shoal practice range to practice your shots, but one thing in particular, although this box annoys me a lot when I'm trying to practice my strafing, one thing I thought it might be helpful with is if you're trying to practice snapping to an enemy as soon as they appear, then you have something blocking your line of sight, and you can sit here and try and hit things as soon as they come across that line, which I am obviously terrible at. Just note with the Shoal that when you are leaving, you do need to then go to the lobby next, because the Shoal does disconnect you from the internet. And so if you try to go straight from the Shoal to, say, the shops, you will get an error. Speaking of Sheldon, another option you have is Sheldon's test range. This is a great way of testing weapons, whether or not you already own them, and especially before buying them to see if you actually want to spend a license on them. To access it, go into Sheldon's shop, pick out the weapon that you want to try, press Y, and then go test. Now, you will note that this range is almost identical to the Shoal's practice range. The only real difference here is these front 3 mannequins. In the Shoal, the small one is at the back, and these 2 are offset in the opposite direction. Otherwise, we have the same rails at the top, we have the same moving targets at the back, we have the same box on the side here, same boxes here. So realistically, you can probably practice the same drills here as in the Shoal, It's just up to you whichever one you want to use. Also, if you would like to change weapons in this range, hit plus. You can go into the usual equip screen, except it will have every weapon, whether or not you already own them. And so you can pick out whatever you like, change your gear if you want to, and then just hit B to go back. And then when you want to leave, just hit minus and then go leave. And that will put you back into Sheldon's shop. One last range that I wanted to mention here is the Grizzco range. If you're playing Salmon, then you've likely already had plenty of experience with this one, but for those who don't know, there is now a range in Grizzco, so you can practice the weapons that are available for the current rotation. I currently have NZAP, which is one of the 4. You have eggs here that you can throw into the basket and test how that actually works. This can be great fun to test a few different things, see what happens. You'll notice there are stickers on some of the targets. This shows you which enemies these targets represent. So for example, that is a steelhead. That's the same height, same damage, everything. This is a few of the bosses, cars, salmon lids, etc. We obviously have a small fry. And if you would like to change your weapon, you go over to this box, you hit A, and then you can pick out whichever of the weapons from the current rotation that you would like to practice. Finally, there are 2 more ways of practicing that I want to just quickly show you. The first of them is Recon. You go to the square and you come around to this lady here. She is in charge of Recon. It is very similar to setting up a private battle. You can pick which mode you want, you can pick which map you want, and then simply load in. Now, this puts you into the map by yourself. You have maximum 1 hour. There is a counter up the top there to keep track. And if you are in any kind of ranked mode, one of the particularly interesting things is if you complete the game, so dunking the Rainmaker, getting the tower to its final spot, or anything like that, it actually resets to the starting point. Instead of ending the game, it resets it to wherever the objective started from. This allows you to just continuously practice a mode if you'd like, and when you want to exit, you hit plus and you hit leave. This is great for learning maps, in particular because each map can be different for each mode, so it is quite helpful if you have never seen a map before and you want to have a quick look around before you go into it in Anarchy. Go to Recon, have a look around, see what you can ink, see what you can't ink, try out some jumps, see if there's any sneaky ways to flank the other team or anything like that. Check out the Rainmaker path, check out the tower path. Just try and figure out a bit of a strategy for how you're going to play the map. And that way when you do go into Anarchy or even Tough, you can start out a little bit more prepared than you otherwise would have been. Finally, the last one I want to show you is actually in the lobby, and it's private battles. Now, this is maybe a bit of an odd one because you do need someone else to join you for this. However, one of the greatest things I've found with private battle is you can practice specific skills or maneuvers or even just fighting with friends. One thing I did quite a bit in Splatoon 1 was organize 1v1 practices, where we would go into a specific map. Walleye comes to mind because it has those blocks in the middle, and just practice trying to find the enemy, trying to get the splats, working around the terrain. And that was really helpful for just learning how to fight in Splatoon with my various weapons. I'm sure there's plenty of things that you could do in private battles to try various things. My team has also used it to figure out team strategies for tournaments. We went into a private battle together and looked at, say, Rainmaker on Walleye and tried to figure out how we would roll out, which way we would push, our call-outs for the various spots. And it was a great way to figure out how we wanted to play a map together as a team without the pressure of being in a tournament and trying to figure things out as we went. So definitely can recommend that, whether or not it's just casually hanging out with some friends and having some 1v1s and having a bit of fun with it, or sitting down with your team and trying to figure out actual strats and rollouts and all that kind of thing. Either way, private battles can be really helpful. But that is it. That is everything I have for you today. I hope this has been helpful, and happy splatting.